Unser Politikblog. We have March, the 7th of March 2011. We are speaking with Mr. Sören Söndergaard, who is member of the European Parliament for the Danish People's Movement against the EU. Mr. Söndergaard, today there's a session in the European Parliament regarding the so-called little treaty change. What is your position on it, and what is the schedule of this so-called little treaty change?
What is today or this evening is that we are going to discuss it in the relevant committee. The relevant committee is the so-called AFCO committee, which means the Constitutional Affairs Committee. And we will make a proposal in that committee to the plenary, and then the plenary will discuss it later this week, Wednesday or Thursday. But there will be no votes. The vote will be postponed until the 24th of March, which, by the way, is the same day as we're going to discuss it in the Council Summit in Brussels. So the idea is that we will vote just before they start their meeting, and then I guess the President of the Parliament will bring to the Minister of the Council the result of the Parliament. In my opinion, there is no doubt that the Parliament will accept. The Parliament will try to make some crisis out of it in that sense that they are very dissatisfied that the Parliament is not will have no influence on these economic matters. So they try to make a fuss of it, but in the end they will accept. There will be a few voting against acceptance, and I will be one of them in the committee this evening. And the reason why I will vote against is not only because the Parliament will have no influence, but because I don't accept the procedure for this thing. You know, if you look at Lissabon Treaty, there is a normal revision procedure. That's the procedure you have to use when you want to revise the treaty. And that normal procedure includes that you have a convention where you can discuss and where the people of EU countries have the possibility to put forward their proposals. But now it's the second time in a year we have changed the Lisbon Treaty, and in both cases the Council say that we are in a hurry. This is a special situation. This is very important. We cannot wait on democracy, and therefore they want to use the so-called fast-track procedure, which is also described in the Lisbon Treaty as a total exception. But the exception is now going to be the rule. They want us to change the Lisbon Treaty without the people involved and without people having possible to discuss it. So that's the main reason why I will vote against.
Article 48, paragraph 6 of the TEU contains this fast-track procedure.
Exactly.
And if you look
at... It also contains what is the normal procedure. And the normal procedure, it's called the usual procedure, is that there should be time, that there should be possibility for convention, and therefore there should be possibility for having discussions and people involved. But now they use the fast-track procedure.
And this fast-track procedure, if you look at the wording of this article, is only allowed for treaty changes which do not increase at all the competences of the EU. Does Article 136, paragraph 3, from the information you have, increase the competences of the EU? Absolutely,
because what you're doing is that you give the possibility to bail out countries. There's discussion that, in fact, you don't need this treaty change, that you could use all of the paragraphs. But Germany have insisted on the treaty change. I guess it's because of the German Constitutional Court that they have to make this treaty change. And it is very clear that when they bail out countries, it will be on what is called strict conditionality, which means that they will put a lot of demands. So in fact, what is happening now is that they establish a mechanism which they can use to take over countries in crisis in the European Union. And I have to say that this is a dramatic removal of power to the European Union.
You have said that there are going to be strict conditions, strict demands. Which hints do you have on which kind of demands the European level is looking for?
We can just look at what happens in Greek. There was made a memorandum of understanding in, I think it was 34.
And what kinds of conditions? You mean conditions like the credit conditions, which have been imposed on Greece by the IMF, by the EU Commission and the ECB?
Yeah, I mean, what happened in Greece, there was made a memorandum of understanding on 34 or 36 pages, which in great details went into what the Greek government has to do. That's, of course, that kind of things which will be understood as a strict conditionality. You know, we have a parallel process with this treaty change where there's the so-called competition pact inspired by the initiative from France and Germany, and which is now taken over by Barroso and Rompuy, which have put forward a paper for the summit, first 8th of March and then 24th, 25th of March. And in this paper, I mean, they very clear state what they want. I mean, they want to get rid of sliding scale of wage. They want to have higher pension for workers. They want to have some kind of wage controls. They want to have mechanisms which means that the workers will have to pay the crisis. So in that sense, there's a lot of indications already what it means when they are talking about strict conditionality.
We have read that on the World Economic Forum there has been proposed a model at the example of Greece that EU Commission, IMF and ECB are imposing on Greece a constitutional change for a kind of a debt break. What is your position on imposing constitutional changes on countries?
It's very clear that it shows very far what kind of influence the European Union or the elite in the European Union wants to have over countries of the European Union. And of course, my opinion is totally unacceptable. And no countries have ever given their permission to such kind of policy.
We have read, I think it was on the webpage of Team Europe, that your party has a court case at Denmark regarding the consent to the Lisbon Treaty and if a referendum has been needed. What can you say regarding the court case?
I mean, in Denmark we have had a tradition. You can say when there was major changes of the treaty for the European Union, that there was a referendum, or at least it was like that. We have a referendum concerning the Maastricht Treaty, for example, and therefore what we say was that when there was the Lisbon Treaty, and we should have had Court. Normally when you're there and it's a case which is important, you can have a free process, which means that you should not pay a lot of money. But the government argued that this was so stupid that if we really wanted to take it to High Court, we should pay the money ourselves. And we had to collect, several hundred thousand euros in order to be able to take the case to the High Court. The government was very convinced that they would win, but they didn't. The High Court actually, some weeks ago, said, well, in fact there is a case, and these people have the right to raise this case. That means that the High Court didn't take any stance on the content of the matter. But what they say was that there is a legitimate case, and these people should have the right to take it before court. So that's where we are now, and then the process will start again. And in the first instant court, if they refuse, or if they say it was not a problem, but the government did, it would go to second instance, and in the last result, I'm sure it will be the High Court again who will make a decision. But that's some years in the future. But this is of course interesting because it shows that the High Court at least says there's a case, and you cannot just a priori say that ordinary people are stupid and governments always are right.
There seems to be a tendency that high courts have a stronger focus, at least on the constitutional identity. We have had the Lisbon Treaty, we have had the Constitutional Court decision at Latvia, and on the conditions of IMF and European Commission and at Romania.
Yeah, I mean, you can see two ways round. You can see that way that the court has a bigger attention, but you can also see the other way round, that the attacks on constitutions from the leading circles in the EU and the countries belonging to that circles have been totally unacceptable and blunt. I mean, they don't accept national constitutions. They just go ahead, and therefore high courts have been, more or less forced to react if they don't take themselves a little bit seriously.
Many thanks for the information.
No problem.
Thank you.